Hello again, I'm Jay Haley from Palmore Institute. This video is video number 3 for our Art and Society class, and we'll be looking at the first half of chapter 2. So, this one is about the topic of migration. In this chapter, the painting that we're going to look at is this painting here. It was created by Tukral and Tagra. The title of the painting is Morpheus, Two Pigeons, and the artwork debuted in 2009. Now, this particular painting is actually part of a much larger installation in which the artists have actually created the interior of a home with all kinds of decorations. Among them is this painting. Now, I encourage you to go online and have a look at the installation as a whole to really get an idea of the full context of this painting. Below is their website. You can go there and you'll be able to see a number of pictures of what the whole installation looks like. It's really quite impressive, and I encourage you to do that. But in this video, we'll be talking about some of the vocabulary that appears in the page. So on the first page of chapter 2, at the bottom of the page, you'll find the section called Art Terms and Concepts. And I'd like to just highlight some of the vocabulary that comes up here. So the first is they're going to give you definitions of paintings and drawings, and I'd like to talk about the difference. What is the difference between a painting on one hand and a drawing on the other? Well, in the reading, it defines painting, a good definition. It says that paintings are 2D artworks or flat images which are made from paint or some other type of wet substance. Drawing is 2D artworks or flat images which are made from some type of dry substance, things like pencil or charcoal. So if you're wondering what is the definition and what is the difference between paintings on one hand and drawings on the other, this is a good distinction. Paintings are created from a wet substance like paint. Drawings are created from dry substances like pencil or charcoal. Okay. In the same reading, you'll find this another distinction between two things: realistic painting versus abstract painting. And they are defined there, but they explain realistic as having recognizable people, animals, places, and objects. Now you'll see in this painting here, I've decided that it's a realistic painting, even though it's not 100% realistic. It's a bit impressionistic. It clearly is a person. It appears to be a woman. You can see her face. There are eyes, nose, mouth. She's wearing a hat, some type of jacket. They're all recognizable objects, and therefore it's a realistic painting. Abstract painting, on the other hand, is defined as showing colors or shapes, but no recognizable real objects. The painting here is a pretty good representation of that. There's lots of color, there are some shapes, but no person, no place, no thing that I can recognize as such. So we would describe this as an abstract painting. Okay. Next, I'd like to talk about figurative paintings. This is also explained in the art terms and concepts section. Now, figurative paintings are paintings with figures of people. There are two examples here. One is old. It seems to show a religious scene from the Bible. Many people in it. It's a figurative painting. Now, below that, a much older painting from very early human history, but there are people in it, and you would describe this also as being a figurative painting. Lastly, I want to talk about portraits. And portraits is also explained in the art terms and concepts section. And here you see a portrait. A portrait is defined as a close-up image of a particular person. In this case, that's Mozart. Now, there are a couple other vocabulary points besides the art terms, and near the end of the reading, you'll see this word, this phrase, strictly speaking. Strictly speaking means using words more precisely than people typically do. And what they say, strictly speaking, a portrait takes a person's face as its subject. Now, we said that a portrait was a close-up image of a particular person. However, if you want to speak very precisely, very strictly, it does need to take the person's face as its subject. The focus needs to be on the person's face. If the focus is on a person, but perhaps the body, their elbow, their feet, you might not strictly call that a portrait. Okay, one last one from this section is at the end of the passage, it talks about stretching the definition of something. To stretch the definition of something means you've entered a sort of gray zone where maybe it fits the category, but maybe it's outside the category. It's a little hard to define it really precisely. Is it inside the category or outside? Okay. The example sentence there says, some artworks stretch the definition of what a portrait can be. In other words, we've seen this definition of a portrait, a close-up image of a particular person, but some works of art stretch this definition. Is it a portrait? Is it not a portrait? It's often hard to tell. If you look at this particular picture, this is actually from chapter 1. It's a photo portrait of Ai Weiwei, the artist who did the sunflower seeds. Now, the question I'm asking is this a portrait? You do see his face. You can tell who it is. However, more in the foreground are the handful of sunflower seeds that he's holding. So what is the focus? Is the focus on his face? Is it on the sunflower seeds? Is this actually a portrait? What is the subject? The art? The seeds? The artist? Now, if it's the artist, it's a portrait, but if it's those other things, maybe you won't say it's a portrait. So this picture stretches that definition of a portrait. Now, my answer is yes, I think it is a portrait. However, you might have a different answer. If you do, I'd like to hear what it is. Please send me an email or leave a message in the comments below. You tell me what you think. Is this a portrait of Ai Weiwei? Okay, let's move on to the reading passage, which appears on page 14. Again, I just want to highlight some of the vocabulary that comes up here. And the first one I'd like to talk about is this phrase, on a regular basis. It appears in line 14. And on a regular basis just means something that happens or something that you do from time to time, or you do it sometimes. Periodically, you'll repeat this action. If you do that, then you might be doing it on a regular basis. The next word to talk about is installations. Now, we're going to see a more formal definition of installations in a later lesson, in a later chapter, where we'll get a formal definition of it in the art terms and concepts section. But for now, let's just say an installation is an artwork that uses a large space. Actually, both of the artworks that we've seen in chapter 1 and here in chapter 2 are installation art. The sunflower seeds take up a huge space. The full version of Escape to the Dreamland is also using a large space. So it's an installation. even though today, or in this chapter, we just focus in on one particular painting, the Morpheus Two Pigeons painting that appears in the installation. Okay. Again, check out Tukral and Tagra's website, and you can see the pictures of the full installation. You can find it online. In line 19, you'll get this word here, ornate. Now, if we describe something as ornate, it just means that it is highly decorated. Like this handrail here that goes along the staircase. It is very ornate, highly designed, lots of detail, small detail. Okay. When we describe something as ornate, it has a positive image. It's a little bit like saying it's beautiful, well designed. Okay. If you think it is over designed or a little too gorgeous, you wouldn't describe it as being ornate. Okay. Also in line 17, the next phrase to talk about is a broken family. Now, a broken family usually means a family which is having trouble functioning as a family. They're not doing well. This is often due to a divorce or the absence of senior figures in the family who would normally hold the family together. That family is struggling. They're having trouble. They would be described as a broken family. Now, in this case, the family being broken, it's not due to a divorce or anything, but it's because all of the children have been leaving one by one to pursue their dreams abroad. And for this reason, the family, though outwardly happy and outwardly successful, is in some ways a broken family. Getting closer to the end, in line number 30, the phrase "a touch of sadness" comes up. Yeah. If we describe something as having a touch of something, it just means it's a slight hint of that, usually emotion. Here, a slight hint of sadness. The whole feeling of this installation has a little bit of loneliness in it. It has a touch of sadness. The children are all gone. The family, in some ways, is broken. Therefore, they describe it as having this slight hint of sadness, despite the fairly rich and ornate home decorations that surround you. Sadness is in there, a hint or a touch of it. Last word I want to focus on, this one here, thought-provoking. If you describe something as being thought-provoking, it just means it's causing you to think deeply. Hey, good art very often ought to be thought-provoking. It makes you think, it makes you consider ideas. This particular installation is definitely intended to be thought-provoking about the issues surrounding migration in modern society and how it affects families. So I hope it makes you think. I hope it is thought-provoking to you. Okay, that's it for this week. I'm going to give you a little bit of homework before we go. The homework would be this week to write a one-paragraph description of Tukral and Tagra's Morpheus Two Pigeons. It's the painting we saw at the beginning of this video. You can also find it online, or if you have your book already, look at your book. The painting appears there. Okay. Write your description of it. Either send it to me by email, or when classes start again, I'll be checking it out. Okay. Thank you very much for joining us again. I hope everybody's doing well and being healthy. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.